Hi there, I'm Thomas Crofts, Senior Pinball Designer here at Zen Studios. I've recently worked on the Brothers in Arms and the Godzilla vs Kong pinball tables, and now I'm working on the Gloomhaven pinball. I really got into this type of dungeon crawling board game in about 2019, and obviously with Gloomhaven being so highly rated, I was well aware of its existence. However, I only got to play the digital version initially. I played that a little in early access, and then obviously when the full game came out, I played that a lot more. There are many aspects of the game that I love, such as the theme, choosing the different starting classes, or choosing the different cards in combat. But for me, probably the most favourite thing is the difficulty. When I actually manage to finish a scenario, it feels like a real accomplishment. My favourite starting class to play with was the Mind Thief. However, on our pinball table, we've decided to go with two bigger characters with more table presence. We chose to have the Cragheart and the Spellweaver classes as fully 3D animated characters on our table. We also wanted to incorporate the other four starting classes, and for that I came up with the Mercs for Hire multi-ball. There you lock 4 balls into the Sleeping Lion Inn, and then their special mode begins. Also, the vast majority of enemies found in Gloomhaven are on our table as pop-up targets. The challenges for playing pinball tables are certainly very different from the turn-based strategy games. Whereas you may have positive or negative outcomes, for example on the road or city events, this felt punishing for our pinball players. So instead we have positive outcomes for making the shots in time and only negative outcomes if they don't make the shots. Combat is also something we had to simplify to make it more understandable during a hectic pinball game, but we still left it rather challenging. It certainly was a challenge designing this pinball table, whilst still keeping all the features from Gloomhaven. And for this reason we had to modify a few of those features so it was more relevant to the pinball table. As an example of this, on the left of the table we have a target bank, and these 3 targets represent the positive conditions the player can receive. If the player is invisible, an enemy attack will miss the player and they receive no damage. If they are strengthened, the player's attacks against the enemy targets will simply deal more damage. And if they are blessed, the combat countdown will be increased. So these are slightly different to the board game's implementation, but we think it feels more intuitive this way on our pinball table. I wanted to include as many features as possible from the board game and transfer them onto the pinball table from the very start. This way it will feel like a real Gloomhaven experience but in pinball form. The legacy elements were something I definitely wanted to include on the table, and for this we added achievement banners. These get displayed whenever you accomplish something, such as completing the wizard mode or slaying a huge number of oozers. On the table there's a mini playfield under the main playfield, and I wanted to integrate it as much as possible into the gameplay without it feeling separate. Of course it was easy enough to add this in, but there were lots of things we had to consider to get it feeling just right. We had to tweak the width of the lanes and the ramps and adjust the flipper heights to account for all camera angles. It can be challenging to keep pinball tables fresh with the limited number of elements we use. However, I think it's their integration into the table's theme through the various game modes which helps keep things interesting for the players. On this table, before starting a main scenario, the player can choose one of 2 battle goals to try and accomplish. For example, they could try doing it with a limited number of flips or without taking any damage. This gives the players something extra to think about, rather than just defeating enemies. I've been very excited about following the Gloomhaven Grand Festival ever since that pledge train departed. I love painting miniatures for board games, as I really feel it adds to the immersion, and I was very glad to see the Miniatures of Gloomhaven set being released. I really hope you like our fresh take on the world of Gloomhaven, and basically that you enjoy playing the table as much as I enjoyed designing it.